The pastry kitchen at the August Institute smelled of caramelized sugar, bleached linen, and intense, unadulterated frustration. It was 11:42 p.m. The grand overhead chandeliers of the academy had long been turned off, leaving the vast, stainless steel kitchen illuminated only by the harsh, clinical glare of the under-cabinet task lights. Outside, a quiet city grid hummed. But inside, the only sound was the aggressive, rhythmic snap of a wire whisk beating against a copper bowl. Maya blinked back the spots in her vision, her chef's coat damp at the collar. She adjusted her pleated white toque and stared down at her fifth attempt of the night. A collapsed, weepingly sad tray of passion fruit soufflés. They looked less like avant-garde French pastry and more like deflated yellow tires. If you over-whip the egg whites past soft peaks like that, the air pockets trap too much steam. They burst in the oven every single time, Williams. Maya didn't even have to look up to feel her jaw clench. Julian was leaning against the adjacent prep island, his arms crossed over a spotlessly clean, custom-tailored apron. Unlike Maya, who looked like she had just survived a flour explosion, Julian looked infuriatingly composed. His dark hair was neatly swept back, his station was entirely wiped down, and his own tray of perfectly golden, gravity-defying chocolate soufflés sat cooling on a wire rack, looking like a photograph from a Michelin star guide. "Thank you, Chef Julian," Maya said, her voice dripping with exhaustion and sarcasm. "I didn't realize the top-ranked student in the senior class was moonlighting as a midnight ghost." Julian let out a soft, low chuckle, a rich, bubbly sound that echoed pleasantly off the copper pots hanging from the ceiling. He stepped into the light of her station, his flats clicking softly against the red quarry tile floor. "The midnight ghost is just trying to make sure his chief rival doesn't burn down the pastry wing before tomorrow morning's final showcase. Seriously, Maya, look at your recipe." He leaned over her marble workstation, bringing with him the scent of expensive vanilla bean and clean laundry. Because the prep bay was narrow, his shoulder brushed lightly against hers. The brief contact sent a sudden, completely uncalled-for jolt of static electricity straight through Maya's apron. She cleared her throat, trying to ignore it, and pointed at her laminated index card. "The ratio is perfect," she insisted, her heart doing a weird, fluttering skip that she blamed entirely on caffeine. "It's the exact classic proportion." "Classic doesn't account for the ambient humidity in a basement kitchen during a midnight rainstorm," Julian murmured. He reached out, his long, ink-stained fingers gently taking the whisk from her hand. His skin was warm against hers, his fingers lingering on the metal handle for a beat longer than necessary. "Here, let me show you." Maya held her breath as Julian pulled a fresh bowl of egg whites toward him. He didn't use the mechanical mixer, he did it by hand, his wrist moving in a fluid, hypnotic blur. Maya found herself looking away from the bowl and up at his face. In the soft, under-cabinet amber light, the sharp angle of his jaw looked softer, and she noticed for the first time a tiny, boyish smudge of powdered sugar right on the tip of his nose. It was incredibly distracting. It made the arrogant, untouchable Julian look human. Cozy, even. "You're staring," he said, not breaking his whisking rhythm. A faint, boyish blush was creeping up his neck. "You have sugar on your face," Maya countered, her own cheeks burning. Julian stopped whisking. He looked at her, his hazel eyes locking onto hers with a sudden, breathless intensity that made the entire room feel intensely quiet. The hum of the massive industrial refrigerators seemed to fade into the background. "Where?" he asked, his voice dropping. "Right here." Maya reached up, her thumb gently brushing the tip of his nose. His skin was soft, and as she wiped the sugar away, Julian didn't pull back. Instead, he leaned into her touch just a fraction of an inch, his eyes darkening as his gaze dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes. The space between them felt dangerously microscopic. Maya's pulse was hammering a wild, frantic rhythm against her ribs. They had been competing fiercely for a year, sabotaging each other's timers, hiding the good vanilla, trading sharp-witted insults in the hallways. But standing here in the dark, she realized with a dizzying wave of clarity that she didn't want to beat him. She just wanted him to step closer. "Maya," Julian whispered, his hand coming up to gently clasp her wrist, holding her fingers right against his cheek. Clank, clank, bzzz. The sudden aggressive roar of the kitchen's automated cleaning cycle vents woke up, blasting a column of cold air from the ceiling to clear the ambient heat. The harsh, vibrating noise shattered the fragile bubble into a million pieces. Julian blinked, instantly stepping back and rubbing the back of his neck, laughing a nervous, giggly laugh that made his ears turn bright crimson. "Right, the automated vents. Always on time." "Yeah," Maya breathed, her hand dropping back to her side, feeling a sudden, agonizing chill where his warmth had been. "Perfect timing." Julian cleared his throat, turning back to the bowl of perfectly whipped egg whites. He carefully folded them into her passion-fruit base, his movements slightly erratic. He poured the mixture into 2 clean ramekins and slid them into the deck oven, setting the timer. 12 minutes, he said, staring at the oven glass. "They'll rise this time. I promise." For the next 12 minutes, neither of them spoke. But the silence wasn't competitive anymore. It was heavy, thick with anticipation. When the digital timer finally chirped, Julian opened the oven door with a towel. Maya leaned in. 2 perfect, golden, flawlessly risen passion-fruit soufflés stood proud above the rims, completely stable. "Oh my God!" Maya laughed, a genuine, delighted sound that made Julian's lopsided grin return in full force. "They're beautiful." "Julian, you're a genius." "Taste it first." He smiled, handing her a small silver spoon. She dug into the warm, airy center and took a bite. The flavor exploded, bright, tart, and perfectly balanced, but there was a distinct, savory depth to it that wasn't in her original recipe. She frowned in confusion, tasting it again. "What did you change? The sugar?" "Look at the salt shaker on your station," Julian said, his eyes crinkling with pure amusement. Maya looked down. Tied around the neck of her silver salt shaker was a tiny, neatly rolled piece of parchment paper, held together by a piece of blue kitchen twine. She untied it, unrolling the scrap to find Julian's elegant cursive handwriting. "The classic recipe calls for a pinch of salt to stabilize the whites, but my calculation says the perfect salt-to-sweet ratio is right here. August final exam prediction. We both tie for first place. Post-exam instructions. Let me take you out for a real dinner on Friday. Call me at 555-0193 so I can reserve a table that doesn't smell like sugar." Maya looked up from the note, her chest aching with a sudden, overwhelming warmth that completely erased a year of rivalry. Julian was already walking back to his station to pack up his knives, his shoulders slightly tense as he waited for her reaction. Maya didn't make him wait. She grabbed her phone from her pocket, slid her stool over to his island, and leaned her chin in her hand, smiling beautifully at him. "Hey, chef, about that Friday reservation. Does it include dessert, or do I have to make the soufflés myself?" Julian froze, turned around, and let out a huge, breathless laugh of pure relief, his dimples cutting deep into his cheeks as he walked right back into her space.